Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve will bring up a subject I have no prior knowledge of, speak about it for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then get me to respond to it, and then may prompt me for more responses. So, over to Steve.
Hi, people. Well, General Patrick Sanders, he certainly put a cat amongst the pigeons this week in the UK, suggesting that that Great Britain is going to need a citizens' army to fight off Russia. Now, in spite of Russia not being a threat to the UK, it seems strange that General Sanders, luckily he's a general and not a colonel, because if he was a colonel, I'd have phoned him up and asked him for a bucket of chicken wings. But there you go. Yeah, you got there eventually. But, he said, this made, of course, his words were a cause for concern for the Prime Minister, because this year, as we know, there's going to be a general election at some time. And the last thing that the Prime Minister is wanting to do is to balance the boat a little bit, even more, rock the boat. And he said that there's no such plan of conscription, which many people believed that that's what this General Sanders meant when he mentioned this civilian army. And he rebuked Sanders for his comments. This is Rishi Sunak. Of course, he's trying to calm the waters, But let's look at something. This made me start to look at, I mentioned in a couple of podcasts ago about the number of sailors in the British Navy, and there's hardly enough to go around. But let's look at the army, soldiers. There are less than 75,000 active soldiers in the UK. And to give you an idea of that, if you got all of the 75 or 74,000 and little bits all together, you could fit them into the football stadium at Old Trafford. And that would be a fool to do that, because all you need to do is bomb Old Trafford and you kill all of our soldiers, But they fit in there. Wembley is too big. Wembley holds 80,000,
right.
So there'll be space, And it's the smallest number of soldiers since the Napoleonic Wars. So it's going back quite a while. It isn't a recent thing. If you summed up the Army, Navy and Air Force combined, it's 185,000 active members of the armed forces. Russia, their army, in the meantime, has 1.1 million, just for a comparison. Looking at the Navy, the HMS Queen Elizabeth and the HMS Prince of Wales, they are 2 aircraft carriers. They remain anchored in Portsmouth. They have never gone to an active situation, and they cost £3.5 billion each. And I believe that they're there. Grant Shapps, very wise man, said nobody. He said, that they're an investment to deter all our foes. Nobody would dare nobody would dare try and do anything against the UK because we've got these two ships, these aircraft carriers. They aren't these aircraft. None of them are going to the Red Sea, where the problem is with the
Yeah,
Houthis in Yemen.
yeah,
Rather, jets have to fly from Cyprus, 3,000 miles away from the action, and they can go. They can only because of the distance, they can only release 8 bombs for each sortie.
yeah.
So you've got to really, really select targets. Because it's 3,500 miles there, 3,500 miles back. That's a lot of miles, air miles. If you collect air miles,
Yeah.
that you go on that of the world.
Yeah.
I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that HMS Albion and HMS Bulwark uh, were to be mothballed because they didn't
Yeah.
have enough sailors. Apparently, they won't be mothballed after all. But how they're going to man the ships, nobody knows. Because the reason for the mothballing or the early retirement of the two ships is to free up the sailors so they can go onto other ships
Yeah.
to make up the shortfall on other ships. And all this bombing of Yemen last night, Maersk, the shipping company, gave up hope. They're not going to send any more ships around about that area because the Detroit and the Chesapeake, which are two ships from Maersk, were attacked, and they had to beat a retreat, flanked by American ships
Yeah.
to try and protect them. And so they beat a hasty retreat. So they're going to have to be going around Africa for all their cargo to deliver all their cargo. So there you have it. It's I feel that in the UK, I mean, somebody asked me if I would, fight for the UK against Russia, and the thing is that two things. One is, we wouldn't be fighting against Russia. We would be fighting for ourselves, defending ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll be fighting against Russia to protect Ukraine, because that's what the knock-on effect is going to be.
Yeah.
Ukraine can't do it, so we're going to have to send our guys in, and so perhaps they can do it, which is the natural evolution of the thing. Sweden got accepted into NATO recently because they're a lot closer to Russia, and that they might be a little bit more malleable to attack Russia also. But they asked me if I would fight for the UK, and I said, well, I'm not sure if I'd be able to fight for the UK, but I would be able to muster up a strongly worded letter to Putin.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
about as far as.
Yeah, I've read your letters. They're normally quite good. So yes, I'll go there. I'm sure Mr. Putin will have every respect for you. So yes,
He'll withdraw all his troops.
Yeah. Yeah.
In an instant.
Okay.
It is. I've just got a letter from Steve. Uh-oh.
Well, Mr. Putin, if you're watching this podcast, Steve is available for your conversation if you'd like to speak to someone intelligent. Anyway.
Hi, lads.
Oh, your first name turns through already. That's good. Yeah.
Nice guy.
Okay.
Just don't get on the wrong side of him.
If you do, don't stand by any high windows. Anyway, yes. Okay. Right. Yeah, I do agree with you that I mean, yes, I saw the news this morning. Funny enough, this morning during one of my clients, I actually played St. Crispin's Day speech in Henry V by The actor called Branagh, his first name, which is quite a good interpretation. And yeah, I mean, great recruitment drive, stand by, fight with honour, and all that for England, and yeah, against the enemy. I'm not saying the enemy was. Insert enemy name here. Yeah, it's a great rousing speech. In fact, I wanted to enlist myself, or and I then moved and I felt my old twinge in my legs. I thought, yeah, maybe mid-50s, not quite what they're looking for. Yeah, I don't know quite what I do from here, like you, Steve. Yeah, you're quite right. You're not fighting for England, the UK. They do have a recruitment problem in the UK, getting people into the military. I mean, at one point, it was a career to follow. Think about, even I did. Instead of going into the military, I went onto the railway. When I was growing up, there were three options. If you didn't have anything, you did the military, the police, or the railway. I got the railway, and I had quite a good career there. It is to join. I would say to join it. I know people that are in it and very, very proud. And when some people you ask today, what do you think of it now? And they're still in contact, or they know what's going on. They do not feel inspired. So ex-people do not feel inspired to go there. I can understand youngsters looking at it, and I mean, yes, it was always the army was always a glorified boys' club. Lots of sport, as much as you want to do. You get to play with guns as well, broadly speaking. Yeah. I did end up in an army recruitment based one, so I'm not going off key, but yeah, there's personal experience as this podcast is. And yeah, the recruitment sergeant made it quite clear to me that you weren't going in there on a paid holiday. You were going there to work. And I was trying to get in as a Royal Engineer. But even when you're an engineer in the military, you're a soldier first. And I thought about going to the Navy. When I was going in there, we were being told the Navy's been run down because there isn't a need for Navy anymore. But how quickly that changed. Yeah, but it was made quite clear to me that if you're in the army, if you're an engineer, a medic, or anyone, you've got to be able to point a gun at someone, fire it, and not worry about their pronouns or anything. Be unselective about that, and even your own pronouns. Not be too concerned about them. Yeah.
I imagine the enemy saying, "You're very rude. You're very rude."
What's Russian for "you're very rude"? I mean, yeah, yeah, we're laughing about it. I mean, like you, I do not believe Russia are the main problem in the world. I was thinking about this the other day. Okay, now with suddenly Russia's this big threat. A few weeks ago, we were being told Russia were having problems taking Ukraine, and we're in moments of defeat and about to be totally wiped out, etc., etc. So how have they gone to being almost wiped out as a military force to being this global threat, or this threat in Europe at least? Riddle me this, yeah. Can someone please explain? I don't think. Okay, we can't agree with possibly the way Russia's gone into Ukraine. Maybe there is argument for territorial requirements for people wishing to be Russian citizens or affiliated with Russia in parts of Ukraine. That's a geopolitical argument. That has been whipped up over many, many years. So that's so there. And obviously, like anything else, there's been certain events that happened in the world where Mr. Putin or President Putin felt he could actually do something. Okay, whatever motivated. I can't get in the head of the administration in Russia any more than I can this. Now, I was thinking about this Swedish general jumping up and down and saying, "We're under threat, we're under threat." Under threat from whom and why? What possible reason? Now, Steve, you might have a reason. Would Putin, given that he's got his own issues in Ukraine, that he's going to feel the effects of that for a few years after, if win or lose? Yeah. What possible reason would he want to invade Sweden for? What does Sweden have? which would be useful to Russia? I can't think of anything. They don't. We're struggling to get energy in Europe, and we're relying on Russia. Yeah. Even Sweden. Technology. Does Sweden have any more advanced technology than Russia? Possibly. I can't see it. I mean, I'm not saying the Swedes are backwards, but I think what always shocked people about Russia in the Cold War, when the Cold War ended, is how advanced Russian technology was. Us in the West being told for many years the Russians are stupid. I know they're not.
Isn't
And
Nokia Sweden?
yeah, funded by the Swedish government indirectly.
Yeah, Nokia. Well, they can do cell phones.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So do the Japanese. So does lots of other people. I mean, the Russians, it would be on. I mean, it probably wouldn't be on Russia. I mean, most of the parts in mobile phones are Chinese anyway. Or not saying they're all.
Like mine.
Yeah. So I can't really think of any reason if I was in Putin's desk, behind Putin's desk, where I think Russia is useful. So yeah, I mean, again, Germany, would that be any use to Russia? Let's just say he wants to go on the rampage. I mean, there's no no ideological reasons. We're not talking communism anymore, the spread of communism from Russia effectively anymore. There's no ideological reasons why Mr. Putin or President Putin would want to take over Europe. It means he's got a headache of having to supply the place for free with fuel, etc. Maybe that's just long-term plan. Maybe we're not going to win anything. Come in. Yeah.
I think when coming back to the original point of this podcast, the Citizens Army, I think who's got it around about right is Switzerland. Because they're in Switzerland, everybody does a 6-week basic training, everybody. And they are given an automatic, I don't know if it's automatic or semi-automatic rifle, and everybody in Switzerland has this rifle at home. And they go back to the army. I think it's for a 2-week refresher course once a year. And basically, I think it's just how to use the weapon and make sure they know how to use the weapon, so that if anybody tries to invade Switzerland, their army is ready, and they just come bursting out the houses with the sub-automatic machine guns and just just mow the enemy down, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got enough guns to but again, this is interesting. I mean, when we talk about size of armies, armchair generals talk about size of armies. Actual generals talk about logistics, supply. So again, okay, we've been talking about the UK having X amount, Russia having X amount. How good are Russia at logistics? What's happening in Ukraine would suggest they're not that good at logistics, supplies. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the fact they're still in Ukraine means they've probably got it in the hand by now. Doing the Russian way, it takes a while to do it, but they get there. Ukrainians do seem to be having a bit of an issue with logistics. If you don't mind me saying, they keep asking for more and more weapons and more equipment and more money.
They've just killed 64 of their own prisoners of war.
Always help. I mean, when we talk about Citizens Army, and again back to the UK thing, recruitment now. Yeah, the other thing is, bring these people off a rubber dinghy. Those of fighting age have a porter cabin there with a recruiting sergeant in it. You want to be a British citizen? Sign here. In you go. Yeah. It's going to be. I I mean, this isn't a new thing, this recruitment issue. When I was in, like I said, when I was going to join, the army was depleted in numbers. They were taking people up to 25, which is
Just
old
like
to
I
go.
said,
Yeah,
just
which is that.
like I said, it's just been going on for a couple of 100 years
Yeah,
since our peak. Apparently, was the Napoleonic
well,
Second World War. Sorry.
second one. Well, I mean, we're fighting for our lives. I mean, yes, the debate is will people enlist or be conscript. Conscription is not a good way to recruit for military. You've really got to want people who want to be there.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, and it is a career.